We have an updated first look image at the Crow remake. We got a lot to say. We're going to get into it right now. The Crow remake of the Brandon Lee, the late, great Brandon Lee movie that I loved. It's one of my cult classics that a lot of people that maybe didn't grow up with it or weren't alive when it came out in the 90s didn't get a chance to see, because Brandon Lee, the late son of the greatest martial artist in history,
Yep.
Bruce Lee, died making The Crow. He actually got shot. And no, it was not Alec Baldwin on the set of The Crow. But
similar situation though.
But he got shot with real bullets and in a stunt scene and died. For my generation, most of the guys I was friends with, we all knew Brandon Lee. We had seen him in a movie, and then he was doing The Crow. Everybody was excited about it. The movie was kind of tough to watch because I thought it was great for what it was.
I did too. It was his last movie.
But it also had a great soundtrack, and the themes in it, I think of the otherworldly themes were really cool, and it stood the test of time. It's one of those that you go back to, and it's just a cult classic. And now the geniuses in Hollywood, that can't come up with anything original. First of all, there's nothing original in Hollywood anymore, so they have to pick at the bones of Brandon Lee to do a Crow remake. But they're not just going to do, with Hollywood, they can't just do a remake and honor the lore, right? We see that.
I mean, The Crow is originally based off a comic, right?
It is.
Fair. So,
yeah.
But Brandon Lee's version was much closer to the comic than what
absolutely
this appears to be.
And so we got our first look image, and before I rip this remake to ever live in shreds, what do you think about the first look? According to Vanity Fair, Bill Skarsgård is playing the character of Eric Draven, which is what Brandon Lee played in The Crow, the original.
I generally like him as an actor.
I do too. I like Bill Skarsgård. I like all the Skarsgårds. Not a problem with them. And FKA Twigs, who was romantically linked with our boy from Transformers, that was in, that went off the deep end.
Shia LaBeouf.
Okay. She will play Shelley. Same characters. And it's directed by a guy named Rupert Sanders. So let me first get your thoughts on the first look images of Bill Skarsgård as Eric Draven. And we're going to put up some of the images on the screen so you can see. What comes to mind when you see this?
Yeah, it's definitely not made for us. I think.
So what do you think the director is going for there?
Well, you remember when you were younger and things used to try to win you over, when you were part of that generation.
Oh, when it was like Followers?
Well, yeah,
Like
in the 80s and 90s, I mean, we were the generation they were going after. Now it's
right.
This looks like maybe Gen Z. I don't know. The thing is they're not going to care about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're taking these properties that were made for, millennials and Gen X, older millennials, and trying to repurpose them for Gen Z, who will have no interest in this whatsoever, I don't think.
So, I guess so. Let's go with a quote from the Vanity Fair article, because Rupert Sanders, who has sports such a great history of filmmaking. He did Ghost in the Shell, Snow White and the Huntsman, and now the Crow remake. And by the way, the first Crow doubled the budget, the gross. So it was a modest hit.
This is back when movies cost like,
right.
$30 million, right? If that.
Absolutely.
Lower budget.
And Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in It, did a good job. Played in the latest John Wick movie. But Rupert Sanders, I think that going for the look that he's going for here, the Post Malone type look, and not the Crow itself, other than the eyes. the Right Under the Eyes, is it just if you're gonna just do another movie, just don't do The Crow.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do that because what they want to do is what every other, Disney is notorious for doing this, and the other studios do it as well. They want to cash in on a name, a brand that will have people go, "Oh, there's a Crow movie," and that's fine if you have a director who understands the lore and the history of what the story is and honors it. But it's clear that looking at these photos, this is going to be something completely different. And, it's going for that Post Malone, like you said, the Gen Z, the new generation.
I think he even mentions that. He says Post Malone and Lil Peep.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's
Oh,
actually,
he says
actually mentions
He says, it's the famous line, whoever fights monsters must be careful that they don't become one. That look was me in the 90s when we were squat raving in London, mixed with some modern influences like Post Malone and Lil Peep. I hope people who are 19 today look at him and go, that guy is us. The image captures the beginning of his transformation into the Crow. It's the moment we realize bad things are coming. Okay, we didn't look at the Crow and say that's us. The whole point of the Crow was he was otherworldly.
Yeah.
Like, coming back from the dead to take revenge. It was a revenge story. And it seems like the themes are changing here. So according to Screen Rant and other sites, they're going to be focusing more on the backstory of Eric and Shelley Draven. The original movie didn't do that. You only saw Shelley in flashbacks.
Yeah, small flashbacks.
It was a revenge film. It was like
It's an
saying,
action movie.
Yeah, it's like saying we're going to remake The Punisher, but he's not really the Punisher.
We're going to focus on before he was the Punisher.
It makes no sense. So the director is focusing on a dark romance between Eric and Shelley, adding a new layer to the story. You don't need to add a new layer to the story. Just honor the original one or tell a new story and don't call it The Crow. And, so to me, this is a hack director that hasn't done anything of note, that they're probably giving. I haven't seen. We'll get some numbers on the budget. But yeah, you mentioned the comic. It was based on the 1989 comic book by the same name. James O'Barr did the comic. And by the way, the soundtrack for the original Crow was phenomenal. Go look up "Big Empty" by Stone Temple Pilots. By the way,
Cure.
The Cure. Great soundtrack. But yeah, final thoughts on. You think this is going to flop? Man, we like Bill Skarsgård.
I think it's going to flop miserably. Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be Madam Web bad.
Or
really
Morbius, which Morbius did
yeah,
better
but
than
I don't
Madam
know the
Web.
budget on this, so it might not have to make that much money, but I don't think it's going to do well. I mean, again, you're taking a property that appeals mostly to Gen X and younger members of Gen X, older millennials, and you're trying to retool it for Gen Z, and they're not going to care.
Yeah,
They're not coming off TikTok to watch this. This is
so they're saying that
it's dead in the water.
They're saying that it's somewhere between $50 and $60 million budget.
That's not much,
So
though.
that's not too bad.
Yeah.
So
you need to do.
But
what,
here's the problem.
120.
You're calling it The Crow to pull in people that saw the original Crow and read the 1989 comic. That's an older audience.
And they're not going to want this, yeah.
And you're making a movie that's going after a younger audience. So you're going to piss off the audience that knows The Crow. And the younger audience doesn't know the brand The Crow, so why not call it something else? We'll see. Look, this is a gamble, but at least it's a gamble with, a modest budget. It could make its money back, but just I don't want to beat a dead horse, or in this case, The Crow. But Rupert Sanders, to me, this is one of those. The guy died making the movie that made him a legend.
Now, to be fair, the sequels to The Crow were awful.
They were.
So it's not like this is.
It's been tried.
Yeah,
it's been tried without Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee made the original movie. I would say, if you have any interest in The Crow at all,
you seen the one with Edward Furlong?
Very bad. If you have any interest at all, go see or download or get on streaming. Find The Crow with Brandon Lee and watch that one, and you'll get your fill of the
That's
Crow.
the only one you should watch, though.
Absolutely, the
others
only
are
one.
bad.
Don't watch any of the sequels.
Yeah.
But look at the end of the day, if it comes out and it's good, then you know what, we'll say it.
I'll gladly eat my words.
Yeah,
I don't think about
yeah.
it. You know.
It's but we're going to be here to cover it. Let
I
us know
wanna
what
be
you
wrong.
think. Bill Skarsgård, are you interested in seeing a Crow remake? Would you have liked to have seen someone else play the Crow? Do you think they should go in a different direction? Are we being too harsh? I don't think we are. And infringing on the history and legacy of Brandon Lee. Let us know what you think. While you're doing that, make sure to smash that like button, leave a comment, and hit the notifications bell for future content. And most importantly, hit subscribe so we can continue to grow our channel and TCB.